My name is Jordi Anton. I'm a pediatric rheumatologist in Hospital Sant Joan de Déu in Barcelona and current chair of the PET committee. It is a pleasure to co-host this webinar together with Kabir Budlender, member of ENCA, healthcare innovator and global patient advisor. We are in representation of EULAR Paede, that gather representatives of groups of people with rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases around Europe, ENCA, the Global Foundation for Children and Families with Juvenile Rheumatic and Musculoskeletal Conditions, and the Paediatric Rheumatology community. Today we celebrate World Day, an annual event on March 18th, focusing on raising awareness about rheumatic diseases in young individuals. It aims to promote early diagnosis, access to specialized care, and support for affected children and their families. Children are not small adults, and today we want to focus on this. While children and young people living with rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases deserve care that truly reflects their unique needs. Because rheumatic diseases may begin in childhood, but their stories unfold through a lifetime, with the combined efforts of patients, families, and healthcare professionals. And for that, today we have three great speakers. Representing John Paede, EULAR, ENCA, and also the PET community. Kabir?
Thank you very much, Jordi. It's lovely to be co-hosting this webinar with you. A very warm welcome once again. Just to begin with some guidance on how best to go about using the platform we are on today, Microsoft Teams. The webinar is likely to work best if you are on a computer or a laptop. So should you have any difficulty, that is definitely recommended. Additionally, it's important to note that this webinar will be recorded and shared through the Paediatric events platform. If you would like to ask a question, and we really do encourage questions and engagement, you'll note that the chat function is available for your use today. So any questions that you put in there, we hope to involve in our panel discussion later on today. Should you have any issues, please do reach out in the chat function and we will try to assist you. In terms of this webinar today, it's important to give a little bit of framing as to what Word Day is. World Young Rheumatic Disease Day happens annually on March 18th, promoting diagnosis, treatment, and awareness. And in particular, the focus of this year's campaign on various social media platforms has been to show the duality of life with rheumatic disease, not only for a patient perspective, but also for a perspective of family members, of parents, of clinicians, and way beyond that, to show that rheumatic diseases, and pediatric rheumatic diseases in particular, affect not just the patient, but the broader ecosystem of pediatric rheumatology. And so as we embark on this commemoration of Word Day, we hope to really show, using our amazing panel and diverse panel, the different kinds of perspectives associated with rheumatic disease, and hopefully leave you with a slightly more open mind and feeling energized about the future of pediatric rheumatology. I now hand back to Jordi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kabir. Our first speaker is Caroline Kirsten. She will share with us her perspective as a patient and also as a EULAR John Paede. Caroline, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm super happy to be here. I will start with talking a little bit about myself first. So I'm Caroline, I'm 27 years old, so not quite a young child anymore, but I did grow up with an RMD. And that brought me to my journey to become part of the German Rheumaliga and also EULAR Young Paede. I'm also going to be the next working group leader this June. I'm from Germany. I live in Frankfurt and study social work here. And as I just said, I did grow up with an RMD. I got my first diagnosis at 15 years old. But with the information we now have, looking back, we're pretty sure that I already had an RMD while I was super young, like in elementary school, between 8 to 10 years old. I had symptoms that we now can say are stem from my rheumatic disease, right? But around 15 years old, my pain got so bad that I had to find out what was wrong with me. In the end, I have axial spondyloarthritis and chronic pain. It was quite a journey because it took around a year for me to find out, to get my first diagnosis, which was chronic pain in the beginning. And then it took another 2 years for my first rheumatic diagnosis, which was at this time rheumatoid arthritis. And then it took another 3 years to get my final and now accurate diagnosis of axial spondyloarthritis. So living with an invisible condition, living with an RMD, growing up with an RMD, is quite difficult. And it starts before the diagnosis, actually. It starts with the first symptoms, right? And there's a lot of doubt. And this doubt stems from, or at least for me, it was that way. I heard a lot of people saying, like, there's nothing really wrong with you. It's just growing pains. It will be over soon, or I'm faking it. The first rheumatologist I went to told me, took like 2 blood tests that were negative and was like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. Maybe go see a therapist. So there's a lot of doubt, and you start losing trust in yourself, in your senses, and in what you're feeling, and you start doubting, like, is it really in my head? Is it really maybe not quite real? And then you get a diagnosis. And the first feeling for me was relief. I was relieved that finally someone believed me. Finally, we know what was wrong with me and that there actually was something wrong with me. And it's not just in my head. And then you have to start dealing with having a chronic illness, right? Realizing, okay, this will not go away. I will have to deal with that for the rest of my life and in every aspect of my life. I quite literally went through the 7 stages of grief. I had to grieve what I thought would be my future, what I thought I would be like, and what my day-to-day would look like, right? Because you have to change what your day-to-day look like. So it just changes. You don't really have a choice. It impacts so many parts of your life that you can't really keep on going the way you were doing before you had a diagnosis. The impact of an RMD, how does this look like? Like I said, it impacts quite literally everything. It started for me at school. I had to work out how to concentrate while I was on a lot of medication that made me tired, and the brain fog from the RMD made it hard to concentrate. I struggled a lot with inflammation in my joints, in my hands. So it was hard to write for me. So taking a test or sitting for a long period of time in school, it was just not doable for me a lot of times. So that led to a high number of missed days for me, and dealing with that as well. And that's only the school part of school, but we all know school is also a lot about social relationships, right? Growing up, your peers are the most important part of your day-to-day, your friends and everyone you know in school. And I had to find a way to express how I was feeling, that I was in pain and I couldn't do something, while also not giving my RMD too much space and feeling like I was talking too much about it. So that was really hard. I felt very alone and isolated because I didn't know anyone around me who also got an RMD. So I had to find people around me who could understand me. That helped a lot. But yeah, explaining over and over again to my classmates, to my teachers, why I can do something today that I maybe couldn't do yesterday, or something I could do yesterday I can't do today. Having to explain my medical condition over and over when I was still finding out about it myself. And yeah, I was just not able to keep up with my friends and with the people around me. Like my friends started to go out and went to parties or got really into their sports, and I got physiotherapy and doctor's appointments and injections and medications, right? So it was like a lot of having like that part of my life impacting, I'm sorry, there's a fly here, impacting my day to day. And growing up, being a teenager is hard enough on its own, right? Navigating, being an adult, wanting to grow up and being on your own, having autonomy, while also still being a kid somehow is hard for everyone. And then you have a life-changing illness that you have to deal with, and that takes up so much space of your life. Just made it really hard for me to feel really connected with my peers. Thankfully, I had and have amazing friends, and I could find a way to deal with that. But it is for sure a big challenge for people, for young people growing up with an RMD. Then also big impact is of course, family. I will not talk too much about it because I know Michael will talk about it later on. But I would just say living together with someone who has an RMD is not easy. My parents, my siblings had to find out about what I could do and what I can't do. Obviously, at the same time, I was, and having to find out, okay, what is just teenager moodiness of me not wanting to clean my room, and what is actually me not being able to clean my room. And that's just an example, right? Also, of course, for my parents, it was a challenge to find a balance between supporting me, being there for me, helping me out, and letting me take my own personal responsibility, figuring it out myself, going to my doctor's appointment on my own, being responsible of taking my medication on my own, even if that means that I forget. So that's like the outside part, I would say, of your life that gets impacted, but then there's also a lot going on inside of you, right? So RMD really impacts your identity. For me, I really struggled with my body image. I added a photo of me that's actually quite recent, but I had to take medication, and it just blew up my face. And that was not the first time for me. So not recognizing myself when I look in the mirror, when I'm on certain kinds of medication is not the first time for me, but it is hard every day, every time. There's a disconnect between what I feel, what I used to look like, and what I'm looking at like done, and I cannot control it. And especially when you're a teenager, your body is already changing, and you already have so many people telling you what is great and what you should look like and what you should be doing. And then you add the RMD, which just restricts your abilities to actually do what you want to do or look the way you look like because of side effects of medications or the pain, that you cannot be as active as you would want to. So for me, body image was a big struggle. And with that also the feeling of my illness taking my body from me. My illness made decisions for my body that I had no say in. And I had to find a way to balance that, to find bodily autonomy, find a way to make my own decisions, and accept that there are some things that the RMD is just making a decision for me. It was, yeah, that was one thing I struggled with a lot, that I felt like the illness decided what happens to me and what doesn't. And that's not a great feeling. So it takes a big part of your identity, and your identity is just growing as well, right? As a teenager, you're just figuring out who you are, and then you don't have a choice to maybe try out sports or do things that you would maybe love to do, but can't. Then, what can support look like? For me, a big part was being listened to and believed. Like I said before, I had a long journey of people telling me, you're faking it. It's not real. It's just in your head. And when I found my pediatric rheumatologist and she told me, I believe you, there is something wrong, that was like a huge thing for me. Also being talked to and not only about, right? Sometimes it happens, especially when your parents are with you in a doctor's appointment. It happens that you get talked about. The doctor talks to your parents about you while you sit in the room, and not to you, but you are the patient, right? And for me, it helped me a lot when I had the feeling, okay, my parents are only here as a support, if I have the feeling I can't say something, but primarily the conversation is between me and the doctor. And in that conversation, having the feeling of getting a choice as much as possible, getting to decide what happens to me, and to my body, even if it's just a tiny thing, right? If it's just deciding what day I take my injection, for example. But yeah, finding a way to balance out the illness taking and you deciding. Then also what support looks like, awareness. I think for me, my journey wouldn't have been as bad if other medical professionals, like my GP or other doctors I saw when I was younger, would have recognized the signs of RMDs in children. Because I feel like it got a little better by now, but when I was that age, like over 10 years ago, I heard a lot of times the phrase, "But you're way too young to have an RMD. That's an old people disease." And just having the awareness, especially in medical professions, that young people can have an RMD and it looks different, and it's important to get the early diagnosis and treatment, because that just helps you your whole future, right? That would be correct. Also, making accommodations and accessibility normal. For example, in school, that accommodations shouldn't be something I have to ask for or I have to be responsible of, but it just being there, just being normal. But that's just a dream I have. Yeah, for me personally, support also looked like having access to the information, being able to learn about my illness, being able to really get to know my illness and myself, which also helped me make more decisions, right? Which was a big thing for me, having the autonomy to make decisions. For that, you need information to be able to do this information. And also, for me, a big thing would be that treating RMDs as holistically as possible, like knowing that it can affect your mental health, that it affects all parts of your life, because I struggled with that. I was like, yeah, it's just something I have, and I take my medications, and then I will go on the way it was before, and knowing like that's not gonna happen. It will affect everything. How can we deal with that together as a team with my doctor, my family, and me? Yeah, that's the dream. I hope you could take something from my perspective of someone growing up with an RMD, and I'm excited to hear about the other perspectives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for such a great presentation. It's fabulous that you're able to tell us the practical implications of what life with an RMD looks like as a young person, but also look broader and tell us about how you really felt in the moment, looking at the psychosocial side of things as well, which is something that a lot of people don't talk about. Is how teenagers have to navigate everything that adolescence brings and their chronic condition too. So next up we have Michael Pölzel. Michael is a member of ENCA and EULA Pare. He is the father of a daughter with lupus and is going to provide us with a parent and family perspective on the topic. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Kabir, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this very important day. At ENCA, our goal, of course, is to help children with all rheumatic diseases, so Word Day is especially important for us, but also thank you to Press and the Word Day Committee for organizing that campaign, and EULA, Paediatrics and Pare for hosting this webinar. It's really very much appreciated. As Kabir said, we have a daughter with a rheumatic disease, and that's really the thing I would want to talk today to you about, to give you a bit of an insight to what that can be like. And thank you for Caroline to bring the other perspective. I think it's very useful to have that perspective first. So it's really a start of a journey. Initially, obviously, when the child is not diagnosed yet, as Caroline has said, it's very, very difficult because you don't really know what's going on. In pains which apparently don't exist. It could be just in your head. Sometimes if you have a very young child, like a toddler or a 2-year-old, sometimes you don't even know that they have pains. They just cry a lot and they just could be like a crybaby. So all these things are very, very together, and then to actually come up with a diagnosis. So as has been said before, to have that in the back of the minds for parents, but also GPs and doctors, that could be a possibility is really useful. And I think one of the main aims that Word Day is trying to put out there, just some awareness. So even when you get the diagnosis, your life really changes overnight as a family. Of course, for the child, we've heard about that, but also for the parents, because all of it have to think about making decisions for your child, which are very difficult, that you know nothing about. You're trying to understand the diagnosis, what it means for your child, but not all child, but also for your child in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, at school, when it grows up as a teenager. Will it have a family? Will my child be able to have children? So all these things, even to things like, which are really black thoughts, but will my child be able to live a full life towards the end? These are things that are all going around your mind, and really put some incredible emotional stress onto the family, to the parents, but also on top of that, you're not sleeping well. So all in all, it's obviously stressful for the child. It's hugely stressful for the parents, but also the siblings are quite affected because they get everything. Our boy was 5 years old when all that happened with his sister, so he was greatly affected. So that's something that we really need to also keep in mind. When we start with this journey, it's not just a medical journey, it's a family journey that we need to keep that in mind. Apologies, just went forward too much. It's very hard and can be overwhelming. So we do need a lot of support from everyone. So that could be family, friends, support from school, from the care team, doctors, nurses. Please support us. Of course, groups, help groups, patient support groups can be of big help here. And it just takes time to adjust to this new situation and to find normality. And sometimes for us, I'm pretty sure that took at least about 6 months to get to a place where we could kind of look forward and be a bit sort of relaxed and see what's what and have a better perspective on life. So what are the challenges as parents? We talked about the symptoms. It's difficult sometimes. Diagnostics and medication, compliance. So this is all about taking tablets, having injections, having to go to the hospital, taking blood. So it's all about needles. All these kind of things are hugely complicated. If you have a 5-year-old child, to try to explain why this is necessary is very, very difficult. And often you get the blame as a parent, of course, and you're quite happy to take it, but it always puts you in a perspective, in a position, not always, but sometimes puts you in a position where you are the bad guy, although you're obviously trying to do the best for your child, but the child is frustrated and it hurts, and quite obviously it needs to vent it somewhere, and the parent is there to take all that. So that can be quite difficult because you don't want to get angry at the child, of course, because you understand the situation, but it can be hard on the inside. Pain management, it's really hard to see your child suffer physically, but I also think it's even harder to see your child struggle mentally. I think if you have a child that's struggling in life because of their disease, to watch that as a parent and not being able to, obviously you're trying to help, is very difficult because it affects home life, friendships. We've heard all that, so that is difficult. And also uncertainty can be a huge stress factor because now we might be in a good place, but maybe in 2 months' time it might be completely different. So kind of having this nagging kind of dread in your mind all the time can be quite difficult. So it's a difficult situation, and we need good support and care. So if anyone's listening that knows someone in that situation, please give it to the child, of course, but also what does good pediatric care look like? So if we go to the hospital, for example, if we have a safe environment where we are meeting with the same doctors and we have a relationship with them, and the we is obviously the child and also the parents, and we can go in a reasonably relaxed atmosphere that the child feels reasonably comfortable with, do all the things that we have to do, it makes life so much easier. If you see different doctors all the time and it's a stressful environment because everyone is running around and rushing and they don't have any time, difficult. It's also difficult if you get sent there and you have to do huge distances. So if we can get multidisciplinary support in one place, in one hospital, it also helps these. Communication is hugely important with the child in a child-friendly way. We need to bring the children on board and for them to be able to start managing their own disease. So that is also on the care team to make that happen, and for the parents to stand back and let that happen. That's very important. So we can get into this shared decision making the older the children get of the decisions they need to take on themselves. That's hard for a parent to. That's very, very hard. As Caroline has said, sometimes you just have to let them make mistakes, and that's difficult. And we have to have open communication. Often we have little situations at home that only really a pediatrician, rheumatologist can answer. We need to have somewhere aligned that we can get this information so we don't have to go to A&E all the time, because that's also very stressful. And also the emotional and social well-being needs to look after, of course. The big message from here is that if I have my child on board, in quotation marks, with this whole this treatment, and I can talk to the child and go to the hospital and do what needs to be doing, it's a huge win. If we're struggling and if we're fighting, we're in a really bad situation. So please help us to make it as possible. One of the big things, I think Caroline really summed that up quite nicely, is that we need to make sure that we really concentrate on the child in its normal life, to make it find confidence, be at school, have friends, careers, dreams, and all that kind of stuff. We need to push to put the focus on that, because the goal is really to the child sort of manages, but it doesn't define the whole life. Although it can, obviously, in many ways, and it can do it quite severely. In those phases, let's focus on life and hopefully make them grow up as normal as possible. Certainly the dream that I have as a parent. So there's a few calls to action I've put, for the healthcare system. Obviously, I won't talk too much about it. Give us expert pediatric rheumatology. All these kind of things are fantastic, but more for the clinicians and the care teams, please create that safe and welcoming space. Even if it's stressful for you at the moment, please don't let it show. Give us a bit of time. If you don't have time, tell us and say, okay, we'll make some other accommodation. Build a good relationship. Try to be consistent. Decision making is important. Be mindful about mental health and social issues. If the parent is not there and just the child, speak about it if there's anything there. And be patient and understanding. It can be really stressful sometimes. So even if we're a bit, aggressive or short, try to just calm us down and move forward. That would be hugely appreciated. Massive point, Caroline's already said it, society and school, please show some understanding. The symptoms are sometimes very invisible. It changes from day to day. Today is fine, tomorrow could be really horrible. Often you hear, well, the child doesn't really look so bad because, it's running around and it's going to, PE classes and all these kind of things, but the next day could be completely different. It's definitely a stigma. You would not believe how many problems we have in our support group with schools and teachers who deny just very basic accommodations. You wouldn't think it, but it's a huge reality. So please put awareness out there and get informed. And then finally, for the parents and the families, I have just one big point for you. Just trust your instincts. Don't hesitate to ask for explanations. If you're at the hospital, in the doctors, don't be try to be aggressive, but if you don't understand something, really, advocate for your kids, be there. It's definitely helping. It's a positive thing, and I think doctors also usually react quite positively to that if you show an interest and get involved and get the children involved in the decision making, in step by step to make them go towards transition. Start very early with that, and just finally build a support network. Go to a patient support group. It's very good to get their perspective, also for the children to meet other children who are in that kind of situation. It really helps to speak to someone who's in a similar place. It really calms you down. You get some emotional support, and it's hugely beneficial to moving forward. That is me at the end of the presentation. So thank you very much again for letting me speak, and I hope I could give you a bit of an insight into the family side of having a rheumatic disease, a child with a rheumatic disease. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. This is very, challenging, and there's a lot of questions that sure can be raised later in our discussions, and I encourage to everybody to send their questions through the chat. Topics as communication, or as you said, beyond inflammation, protect your child's future. It's a potent and strong message. Our next speaker will be Alexander Belot. Alexander Belot is a pediatric rheumatologist in Lyon. He is the representative of EULAR pet community. And Alex, he will present the clinical perspective. It's a pleasure to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jordi. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to the two previous speakers for the very great talk and inspiring words. So as said as an introduction, so children are not smaller adults. And here you have a picture of different painting over the years. And it raised a question on how do you see kids? And I would say from Renaissance painters to Renoir to Miro, children are never represented the same way. And there are some people that see the kids like teeny adults, as you see here on the left, or they are sometimes idealized, sometimes totally abstract for the others. And we need to cope with these different views and remind that definitely they are not small adults, and we need to see them differently. They are different for many reasons, and we need to consider pediatric rheumatology as a real subspecialty because of physiology and development. And definitely, children are developing in every dimension, including the immune system, which is shaped during the first years of life. You know about this microbiota and the genetic factors that drive the health that years. They are also in a situation of growing, having the puberty, hormonal factors, and there are also some differences even in terms of drug metabolism. And for this reason, we definitely need clinical trial for kids, some specific care and research because they are different. They have different comorbidities such as growth delay. For GIA patients, we have this uveitis issue, the school difficulties, as it was mentioned by Caroline earlier, and psychosocial impact. So globally, this day, the World Day, it's to raise awareness about this disease because they are not very known. As said by Caroline, we often say, well, you're too young to have a rheumatic disease. It's not possible, but are rare, but it's possible, and it's probably more severe than in adulthood, and it lasts for life. The presentation can be different. And Michael mentioned the lupus, and early onset lupus can be different. You see the number, so they are very small. There's not a lot of, but still, we need to take them globally. And we know that in our unit, we can have a couple of patients, and there are some interest to make them assemble, to see them and to discuss together, to see that they are not alone, even if it's a rare disease. The thing is that there are also different classification in the field of pediatric rheumatology, and they can change over time, as you can see here. And we sometimes feel like in a Babel tower where we can't speak the same language, and particularly with the adult colleagues that are trained in adult rheumatology, because the name of the disease can change, and that's the case for GIA, where we have different naming, and it sometimes doesn't make sense for the adult colleague, and we definitely need to explain and discuss together and work together. And as mentioned also by Michael about the ideal life, what we want for kids, it's some global medical expertise and teamwork, including nurse, having the chance to meet other kids and consider healthcare in a growing child. But there is also the issue of school, the need to learn, to play, to meet others, and possibly others with the disease, and see the family dynamics that is always changed, including in the brother, sister in that different situation. So we need to build awareness of pediatric rheumatic disease and across the globe and probably across the specialties, because I'm a pediatrician, so I will see my patients till the age of 16 or 18. But globally, this early onset disease are lifelong, and the adult rheumatologist will see them even more longer. So they need to be trained and learn about this disease. And there is a real need for strong collaboration between teams, between colleagues and societies such as press and EULA, for example. And there are a specific space for that, which is the transitional care that makes sense to us. And when we see Caroline, when she is in between two ages, what can we do? Because we all feel that being adolescent without any disease, it's already very challenging. And our adolescents can feel like Bill Murray in this movie. I don't know if you've seen that, but he's totally lost in translation in Japan. There is the jet lag, no one speaks the same language. as our adolescent in some extent. They don't awake same time of us. They sometimes don't speak the same language, but we need to enter the world. We need to take care of them specifically at that time. Because they have many unmet needs at this period of time. And if we look at the adolescents and chronic illness, there is really opposing forces. When adolescents speed up times, should liberate, make you grown and foster autonomy, the disease do exactly the reverse. That stop time, there is contrast, you need to go to the hospital, you have sometimes regression, you need to have even injection. And then on the clinical side, adolescents can interfere the disease treatment, and on the other way, the treatment itself can modify the adolescence and the growing, like steroids that can block the growth, for example. And also, in between two units, when you are transferred to the adult unit, so this is provocative, but just to say that it's sometimes two different worlds, and we need to do it better to prevent any issues when you go to the adulthood. So as a conclusion for a physician, I think so pediatric rheumatic diseases are real. We need to learn more about this, especially for all specialists, nurse, adult rheumatologists, because it's different. When it starts early in life, there are many, many differences that need to be shared and teach to others. I think we often say that indeed having a disease early in life, this is terrific, and we need to find a cure. That's the global hope we all share. But I want to say that the disease also brings something for kids. It brings some courage, compassion, they are more empathic globally when we see our adolescents. I learned that Caroline is working as a social worker, if I'm learned correctly, but it's often the case. We have many of our patients that will become doctor, nurse, and will go to the others because they have some specific skills and they are really full of compassion and they can do their job even better, I guess, than possibly others. So a day like today, we need globally to raise awareness about this situation and to say we need research, we need specific healthcare, we need to work globally as a team with all the different partners, including families and parents, including patients themselves, and to help them to go in this specific path. So I'm done, and thank you all for the discussion, and I think we are happy now to discuss together.
Thank you very much, Alex. That has been very, challenging too. There's a lot of questions that has been raised, and I'm sure we can now, with you three, discuss and comments while we wait for other questions to arrive. One of the points I would like, Caroline, if you had to talk with your person when you were 15, where you are missing, or would you have now that someone have explained you when you were 15 about the disease, the path you will follow? What things do you miss, or do you think you would like this young person to know?
Oh, that's actually a quite deep question. I don't necessarily regret anything, any path that I followed, but I tried one time, of course, with my doctors, to stop the medications and just go back to the basic, and that was not good. And it took me around 2 years to come back to the standard of my well-being that I was while I was on medication before. So I would probably tell her to never stop the medication. But also there was an experience I had to make, I think, and that helped me in the long run. But yeah, I think despite that, or despite having the illness, I managed to do everything I wanted to do. I went to travel. I went to live abroad for a while, and I managed that. And I would say to myself that it's okay to dream about that, and that I will not have to give that up, and that there are ways to make it work, even if it's a bit harder.
Thank you so much. This is a very powerful message, and I appreciate a lot your openness. I mean, explaining and sharing your talk and also your thoughts.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No,
Sorry, go for it.
No, I
Please.
just wanted to comment on Caroline that indeed having this expertise, actually when you're a patient, you are your own expert and you can share this expertise. When I learned that Caroline said, I would see an adolescent and say, please go ahead with the treatment, keep going because it's necessary and mandatory. I experienced personally stopping the treatment. It was not so good. That can help definitely far more than the physician saying, yes, you should treat this disease. And then I would also say that on the other way, when you are an adolescent, you want to become autonomous. And for this situation, sometimes you need to experience yourself the disease to be confident that the treatment is required. And that's also something that happens often.
Mm-hmm. Something I would like to bring up that actually stems through all three of your conversations we've had today is the sense of trust in relation to the patient-practitioner relationship. And so it would be really great, Caroline raised it, Michael's raised it, we've all kind of discussed it in isolation. But I would love to hear from each of you what do you think can be done to improve the patient-practitioner relationship, given the fact that when we have pediatric rheumatology patients come in, by the time they get to their pediatric rheumatologist, they are maybe, the 9th doctor they've seen. And so there has been a sense of maybe a misplaced trust in the medical system. And so it would be nice to hear from each of you if you have any suggestions as to how we can improve on that and what your strategy may be in the clinic.
So can I start?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay. No, I mean, having a global team with always the same physician for the family, so that's possibly the first way to be trusted. And I could say also having be confident in science and share the science and explain that we try to learn more about the rheumatic disease and provide the best treatment we can to kids, just to reassure them globally. But then having a multidisciplinary team is key. And locally here in Lyon, we have a nurse that is dedicated to the transitional care. She has a phone. She spends the phone so the adolescent can directly call the nurse whenever they want, just to check everything, what is missing. If there is some issue, it can be solved. So we need to be reached easily, and maybe not in the way we do usually on a classical clinic, but we need to build on this relationship, which need to be specific. And I think the job is a lot on our side to go to the youngest and to, because on their side they essentially want to be alone, to get rid of any health care. And so for this reason, we need to invent situations where they're happy to come, where they're confident that the message we provide is key, real, and they are happy then to come back home with families and keep going with treatment.
I agree with what Alex had to say. I think the environment helps a lot. And like I said before, I had an amazing pediatric rheumatologist, and we had a great relationship. I had a great experience with her, and I think the biggest thing for me back then was that she took her time with me, especially the first time she saw me. She actually really listened and asked me questions and verbalized that she believed me and that there was something wrong and that it may take a while. She was also honest about that, that it may take a while till we find the right answers, but that we will find them together and that we will keep trying. And yeah, she gave me a lot of hope. And at that point, I didn't have a lot of hope or trust in clinicians and doctors left. So I think that for me really helped with the treatment, with everything. Yeah.
They pretty much echo what's already been said. I think it comes from a combination of communication, honesty, where you have a feeling of the team. So you not go to the doctor and the doctor decides and you just comply, but you, because it's such a big topic and there's so many things to consider, you've been basically drawn into this conversation, into this decision making, and the honesty to say, okay, if it's going to work, let's try it. It could be good, it could be bad, but at least if everyone is aware of the consequences of what's been, this is a really good basis of trust, just communication. And then also for me as a parent, it's always very comfortable if I have a bit of a safety net. So if I have any questions, my next appointment might be in 2 months' time. If I have something that's just come up, if I have a line somewhere that I can call or email, get just a bit of clarity, it really eases my mind a lot, because it might just be something small, it might not be. So that's quite a difficult thing, and even your pediatrician couldn't really give you an expert answer. So if that is available, and even if it's not instant, then that a kind of a relationship of trust where I feel safe with my to be treated. And also sometimes, if someone says, I don't really know if you come with a suggestion, that you listen to, because not will they think of everything. And as you said, Alexandra, I think people become experts, and quite recent example asked our treating physician whether it be possible to do some monogenetic diseases, because that might be a possibility, and he was quite enthusiastic about it, and we went ahead with it, but it wouldn't have maybe happened if I hadn't mentioned it. If that kind of relationship exists, I think you're in a really good spot.
That's amazing. And Michael, there are one topic and a word that I believe summarize what are the three talks today is communication and patient journey. Patient journey till the point that arrive from a family journey to a transition and a young adult taking from him or herself. No, so that's the key word, the communication, improving communication is feels in your all of your talks. I'm afraid we are running out of time. We have some questions, but maybe for very short answers from Simon Stones said that there is, in spite these topics have been raised for several years, there's still from patient's perspective, there is a big challenge in preventing universal young person and family-centered multidisciplinary pediatric rheumatology. And his question is how it could be a reality. Can we improve this in our practice? No.
Well, I should say it's very challenging. We need to cope and include patients, family. For this reason, we need time, and a lot of time and people to work together as a team. I think we start to get patients together as experts of the disease to discuss together with the nurse, the physician, also to explain the disease, which is part of this therapeutical education, which is a way to bring together everyone. I mean, we can also learn about other subspecialties. And in oncology, for example, I know they are very strong to organize this sort of healthcare, including the involvement of sibling, brother, sister, that all participate to the journey of the patient and their own brother or sister. So we need to be more inclusive and to think globally in our unit how to do this for the all family level, as you mentioned. But I think it's very challenging, and we need the time and funding and awareness for all of these things. That's important to spread the word, as would say.
Thank you very much. It's a shame time has flown by. I hope that this shared time has helped you all to better understand the experience that children and young adults with rheumatic diseases go through. Today, we have had the opportunity to hear about very personal experience from the patients and parents' perspectives. Several topics have been raised as importance of communication, creating safe and welcoming spaces, involving children in shared decisions, multidisciplinary support, patients associations. We have learned about why pediatric rheumatology is different, the difficulties in classification, treatment, and support during the transition to care in adult care facility. But there are still, of course, unmet needs. We must identify and remember, as it has been said, that besides all of them, beyond inflammation, we must protect a child's future. We know that behind every adult with a childhood onset rheumatic disease is a brave child who learned to live, grow, and never give up. Patients show their strength when times are difficult, and when times are good, they demonstrate hope. Today, we wanted to reinforce this message. No matter how difficult things are, patients and families are not alone. There are others out there with the same conditions and patients' organizations that can provide support and information. Moreover, clinicians and researchers continue working with you all, patients and families, to better understand rheumatic conditions and to develop new treatments, improve services, and our current practices. I would like to thank all three speakers, my cohort Kabir, the communication and technical support team from Euler, the ENCA, PARE, and PAID communities, and all of you who have connected from all over the world to celebrate this day. In a society that sometimes relentlessly glorifies speed, personal ambition, and individual accomplishment, children and young adults are an amazing example of strength and resilience. This timeline's African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's something that I always keep in mind. Serves as a potent reminder of the power of cooperation, patience, and community. And that is what we have tried to show today here. Remember, you are not alone. Contact with your local patients association. Ask your doctor. And may you end this day well. Thank you very much for being here today. Have a good night.